Here we are for another live reading. Today I am going to be reading the prologue and chapter 1 of Jordan's World, which is book 1 in the Jordan of Algorand series. So that's this book here. Looking forward to reading it to you. I guess we'll just jump right into it. Starts with a quote. The seeker embarks on a journey to find what he wants, and discovers, along the way, what he needs. Wally Lamb. Prologue. 17-year-old Jordan Lewis was forcefully roused in the middle of the night with no warning. Sound asleep one moment, she next felt powerful arms grabbing and picking her up. Unsure whether this was real or a dream, and terrified regardless, Jordan resisted with all her strength. Using both hands, she pounded against her abductor's chest, which was covered with armor of some kind, and head, which was protected by a helmet. Trying to twist out of their grip, she kicked and screamed as loudly as she could, but it did no good. Her assailant apparently could see in the dark, never turning on a light, nor having any illumination on his or her protective suit. They never said a word either, as they stole Jordan away from her home in Colorado. "What do you want? What are you going to do to me?" Jordan shrieked. "Let me go!" Silence continued to be their only response. In her panic, Jordan wondered if it was even human. "Someone, please help me!" Jordan cried. Passing through the living room, Jordan's kidnapper sidestepped the couch and exited through the open front door. Walking over the cobblestone path to the driveway, her eyes adjusting to the brighter moonlit sky, Jordan beheld her assailant's companion, a second abductor, who held her mother, Janice, struggling in its arms. She looked like she was screaming too, but Jordan heard no sound. No one could hear us, Jordan thought, horrified. Somehow they're blocking the sound. That's why no one has tried to help us. One of the kidnappers pressed a button on its wrist, and a circle of bright light erupted in midair. It was about 8 feet wide by 8 feet tall. They calmly walked through the portal with their captives. Jordan's senses were nearly overwhelmed by the jarring sense of motion within this phenomenon. She didn't know how fast they were traveling or in which direction. It seemed like every direction simultaneously. It made her feel sick and extremely anxious at the same time. Would it ever stop? Were they going to die? Seconds, or maybe minutes, later, the abductors emerged on the other side of the anomaly, still holding Jordan and her mother just as tightly as before. They seemed unfazed by the experience, unlike Jordan, who felt shaken and dazed. Almost immediately, her assailant gently set her on the frigid, snow-covered ground, while his companion did the same for her mother. Jordan remained emotionally spent and fought to orient herself. "Where have you taken us? What do you want?" Jordan shouted with as much strength as she could muster. Her kidnapper pointed at a light in the distance. Was that a fire? Jordan watched her foe launch some kind of flare from its wrist, using another technology she was unfamiliar with. Then both assailants walked back into the pulsating portal of light before it closed behind them. Jordan crawled on her elbows and knees to reach her mother, who had fainted. The last thing Jordan perceived before passing out was silhouetted shapes approaching them and shouts of alarm in a language she had never heard. Chapter 1. The Makta. Jordan woke to the light from the distant twin stars, Hilat and Gurat, the brothers in the Makta language. She rolled to her side, half tempted to go back to sleep, but icy winds forced open the flaps of her tent and made her squint, holding close the furs covering her until the gust ceased. Whether she liked it or not, she was awake now. As with most mornings, she dragged herself out of her tent, stood up, and stretched. The frigid air bit into her lungs as she took a deep breath. She then exhaled slowly. Moisture from the snow-covered ground and the smells of the nearby tall, slender trees and fall-flowering plants greeted her. The scents of the rest of her hunting pack, still sleeping in their tents, mingled with the freshness of the morning. She ran her hands through her long, soft, dark brown hair, untangling waves as she went, and then secured it into a braided ponytail. Looking at the mountain in the distance, the birds and clouds in the sky, Jordan smiled at the wonder of another day. Soon she and the other hunters would be pursuing a giant saston, an animal that looked like what would happen if a woolly mammoth crossbred with a cheetah or two. It was their job to secure a meat supply for the coming months. She performed additional stretches to loosen up her limbs and to ready for the coming challenges of the day. A tent's flap rustled, and footsteps crunched through the thin, soft snow. "Will you be performing the fire dance for us soon, Jordan?" Zaska asked in the Makta language. "Or were you intending to break your spine to avoid the hunt?" "Neither. The stretches loosen me up," Jordan replied in Makta. "I do them every morning, and they help me. I eat a hearty meal every morning. That helps me. Are you saying I do not eat well?" Curious, Jordan turned to her friend. Zaska tilted her head slightly and raised an eyebrow. "You eat well enough now. You used to eat like an insect. That is why it took so long to train you. You were a good mentor." "I am still a good mentor," Jordan chuckled. "Yes, but I do not understand why you parent me so much. You are only 2 cycles older than me." "You are a handful, dark hair," Zaska said with a smile. "Maybe you need a second parent." "Maybe," Jordan said, returning the smile. "Shall we start the morning meal?" "Why should we do that?" Zaska replied. "Let the other member of this pack make it." "You have tasted Raybon's cooking, right?" Jordan grimaced. Zaska stared at Jordan for a moment. She wrinkled her nose in dismay. Yes, I have," Zaska said. "I will get started on the food." Jordan pulled some kindling wood from one of the bags and started a fire for the cooking. She caught a glance of Zaska entering her tent to get ingredients. Jordan then returned her attention to maintaining the flames. Zaska befriended me when I still did not want any friends, ties, or connections to this world, Jordan thought. She helped me out of my despair and self-pity. She listened to me and then reached out and told me what I needed to hear. I will always owe her for that. "Do you remember when we met, the night I arrived on Algorand 4 cycles ago?" Jordan asked as she started the fire. "Yes, I was the first to find you. You had such thin clothing and were shaking from the chill. Even the coldest nights where I grew up were warm compared to here," Jordan said. She wasn't feeling frigid at the moment, but the memory made her involuntarily shiver. "You were hurt from going through the, what did you call it? Portal?" Zaska added. "Raybon and I were not sure you two would survive." "I could not understand a word you said, but I could tell you were worried about me and Gemta," Jordan replied, using the Makta word for mother. "You were strange looking, with your light skin, brown hair, and white eyes," Zaska said. "But Chiefess had told us that your kind might be brought to us, and that you would not be prepared for life on this world. I knew I had to help you, even if you did scare me." "I scared you?" Jordan chuckled. "I would never have known." Jordan had never been frightened of the Makta. She considered them a handsome people, with their red skin, black scleras instead of white, amber irises, pointed ears, and white hair. They were about a foot shorter than Jordan and her Gemta, but they were stronger and faster than any human. "I could not tell you that. It would have been a sign of weakness, Saska replied. I would not have seen it that way. Jordan added a little more kindling wood to the small fire, watched the flames and smoke build along with the heat. I did not know you well then. I could not take that chance, Saska continued. I am glad you told me now, Jordan replied. Saska smiled in response. It surprised me that you and your mother learned our language so quickly. It made things easier. Gemta has always been good at languages. I guess I am too. At least learning the Makta language gave us time to adapt, Jordan said. Once we could understand what you were saying to us, your gifts for storytelling helped us learn Makta culture, history, and the importance of this mountain we live on. How do the Makta remember all those details? The Makta have no written language. Jordan watched as Saska tied her own hair into a ponytail. Jordan had observed that younger Makta kept their hair in longer styles, while elders kept theirs short. Once we hear or see something, we always know it. We can see it in our thoughts and recite it the way we experienced it. Then I was right. It is a gift, Jordan said. Saska smiled. I suppose you could say that. I had never given it much thought. It is a normal thing to the Makta, like living in the village. The Makta tribe occupied a mountainous region, which was relatively easy to defend from invaders or rival tribes. The hunters wore tough animal hides and furs. Those in other village professions wore more elaborate clothes made from woven fibers and colored with dyes. From inside her tent near the flap, Saska was still pondering which ingredients to use for breakfast. She looked into one of the bags and called out to Jordan. Do you want wib eggs, or wib eggs? Saska asked. Wib eggs is fine, Jordan smiled. Oh, tell me you still have some of your spicy lana to go with it. Fortune smiles on you this day, my friend. Yes, your lana is so good you could sell it at the market. My Torcom does sell it at the market, Saska said, alluding to her father. And for a good price, too. Jordan's smile faltered as she suddenly felt wistful and lonely. Saska had stopped gathering eggs, and Jordan could see the concern in her eyes. You mentioned your Torcom, and it reminded me of mine. I miss him, Jordan answered her friend's unspoken question. I was angry with him right before my Gemta and I were taken. I regret not making things right. Forgive Jordan, Saska said. I did not think about my words. No, it is okay. I am okay. I know my family is here now, with the tribe. Tribe is family, but not like blood, Saska said. No, not like blood, Jordan repeated. I miss my Torcom, and my younger brother, Mark. Do you sometimes wish he had been taken with you? Jordan shook her head nervously. No, at least he is still on Earth with my Torcom, she said. I do not know what I would have done if he had gotten sick with the Shilvaba like Gemta. Saska nodded. You are the reason she survived. I only stayed with her. Healer Latas gave me good instructions. When to give her the medical salve, how to handle her fever and tremors, the loss of her sight. I would not have been able to watch my brother also. Chiefess Kitranor would have told the tribe to help with him, and your Gemta would still have lived. Jordan put her hand on Saska's shoulder and smiled at her. Thank you. I noticed you did not say you would have helped with my brother. Saska grinned. No, I did not. I had to parent you. You did, and so did Chiefess. Saska's expression turned sympathetic. Your only blood relative on Algorand could have died from the Shilvaba. Many have, even during my cycles, she said. You were so lost during that first winter time. I feared you might perish from sadness. Jordan felt older than her 21 cycles. I had to live, she said. It was the only way she was going to make it. Saska nodded somberly. But she did recover. You were able to learn the hunt, as all young ones do, and your Gemta helped in the harvest fields. Yes, she can use her other senses well there. Touch, hearing, and smell. Sight is not as important. And because of my training, you are a decent huntress, Saska added. Decent? Jordan raised an eyebrow in mock offense. Saska laughed in response. Raybon had arisen and approached his hunting companions. He was lean for a Makta, but strong and fast. He had almond-shaped eyes, a long and thin nose, and somewhat small mouth. He had his own share of hunting scars on his arms and legs. This hits the spot, Jordan said in English as she savored her eggs. Diz hits the spot? What are these words you speak, Jordan? Saska asked. I think she said something in her old language, Raybon added. I'm sorry, it, lost something in translation, Jordan said. I was saying I really enjoyed the meal. Thanks. We will need to go soon, Raybon said. The Sastons will be stirring, and it is best to catch them unaware. For once, Raybon is right, Saska deliberately provoked an irritated glare from the young man. We should go, Jordan. Pack up your gear, then. I will be right behind you. Jordan allowed the last of her eggs, which were smothered in Lana sauce, to slide off the stone plate into her mouth. What a beast, Saska taunted. Perhaps we should be hunting you. The trio laughed at that as Raybon attended to the rinsing of the plates. Saska began packing gear. Jordan drank some water from the stream and organized her hunting gear within a handful of minutes. She looked at the silver ring on her right hand, which had a sapphire gem embedded at its center. It had been given to her by her father a year before her abduction. Dad, Mark, I have not given up hope. I may not know where Algorand is or how the abductors brought us here, but if there is a way for me and Mom to come home to you, I swear I'm going to find it. And that is the end of Chapter 1.